はい、それでは、Now start Aiki-waza class number 5。
We're going to start Aiki-waza class number 5.
はい、で前回は入れるAiki、集中力のAikiを話した。
So the one before and the one before, so 4 and then 3, I did concentrated power Aiki-waza. Concentrated power Aiki-waza.
で、相手の体にきっちりと合わせる、入れるっていうことをやりました。
So the one that I showed were more really completely locking up, real locking up, adjusting completely, attached more like, and then putting the concentrated strength into it. That's what I showed.
今度はその逆をやろうと。
So I'm going to do opposite today.
相手にぶつからない相手をやる。力をちょっと合わせない。抜く相手。
So still adjustment was there, right? Adjustment is going to be there, but this time instead of adding, I'm going to. So that more like say calculation was adding before. Today it's subtracting.
ね、それやりましょう。
See how it goes.
はい、はい。はい。ポス。ポス。入れる相手はこの相手のこの持たれたところから
So the one that I did last time is adding, more like adding Aiki-waza. First lock it up and add my strength into it. So this is more like adding one. So I added my center power into his body and then locked up. Now I relax it, there's no locking. I add it. So first, you can see that's how it's looking. So I add my concentrated power from my body, and then adding it into his body to lock it, and then to throw, I add even more strength into it. So this one I call, let's say, adding Aiki-waza type.
今度はこのまずこの入った感じを与えて。
So first, again, I need to lock first. That's more at the beginning. I have to add my concentrated power. And then next, more like subtracting from it. You've got to add it to lock it up. So you have to lock first. So feeling like really drawing my strength from the center, drawing out, using my hips, more like subtracting I would call it, but that's drawing. So see, that's the principle I talked, more like drawing from his center. Lock first. So lock first. To add to lock it. Then subtracting is draw out, more like draw out from the center, from the core. So now 2 hands, whole strength, Lawrence, the whole strength to hold. So I'll do adding one. So first add it, and then even add it more. So to lock up, I have to add my, as I said, I have to add my centered power to lock it. Then I add more to throw. But there's, I feel the center, and this is more like subtracting.
持ってる方は本当は強いからこの場所で固定することができるんですけど、僕はこの相手の中心に力を乗せて
So the difference you can feel from when he said the adding technique where you're really thrown, and then when he said subtracting, more like he says pulling or like drawing from the center.
Yeah, I feel maybe like an absorbing bit of a. It's like you get stuck on, and you get stuck on, and then Sensei moves, and whichever way the power goes, I feel I have to go in that direction. I guess, yeah.
There's no way you can sort of fight against you?
I'm fighting at the start by holding on really strong, and once Sensei turns on his center and everything else, see you later.
これを角度を変えると、この高さでいくと、さっきはこっちですね、今度はこっちでいくと、相手がこう持ってくる。この位置からすっごい。
It's a lot of strength.
中心に線をこうくっつけて。
You got to feel where the strength line is, and then the right center of that force line, that's where I draw out. Once I draw out, then the uke draw out of that line.
It feels very much like a strong, like I'm grabbing Sensei strong, and as soon as a little bit relaxed, I feel like I'm even more attached, and then Sensei just moves, and I feel like I have to follow.
その流れで見てもらうと力が流れる。
So you got to really feel and then see the line of the strength, line of the force. So there's a lot of force happening where Lawrence is grabbing, lots of force.
It is really hard to explain, honestly speaking, but yeah.
It's more like disappearing, is it?
Yeah, it's like, it's the power, like you're holding on and Sensei's arm.
There at the beginning, right?
I feel the muscles, like I feel the muscles and everything, and then all of a sudden everything just melts.
Melts, yeah, more like melts, and then you just have to go with it.
Yep.
More like.
一つは意識の問題で、持たれたところを投げようとする意識があると逆に投げられない。
For this sort of, I call it subtracting Aiki-waza type, you need to forget about where you are held or even where there's force. You've got to forget about it. If your mind is focused on that point, you can't do this technique. You need to forget about it. Maybe Lawrence can try, or yeah. So what he did is obviously where he was feeling the strength is, where Sensei's grabbing position, he's trying to throw that point. So say here, from here. So that's what Lawrence was doing. He was trying to throw. He was fully feeling where the strength was, where force was happening. That's more like throwing the force. It's really what I'm feeling. It's just trying to forget where the force is. But more like taking myself away from the forces.
それを今見れるこう持った状態で普通持たれると
When you
持たれたところに技をかけた
when you're held so hard, naturally you concentrate where you're held and you try to throw that point. But for this technique, you're not throwing that point. No, it's
今のは持たれたところを外した
I just removed myself from where the strength is. So I'm feeling it at the beginning. I just moved myself just out where the strength is.
この位置で今持たれてるから
So at the beginning, I'm feeling his strength where but I just remove it out of it. Just can you try that, Lawrence, to remove yourself out of the strength? That's what the sensei says. So now you feel it, right? You feel sensei's strength. They are trying to hold you. And then what sensei says is almost like 1/5 out of that. Take yourself out of that strength. There he goes, of course. Leaving sensei there.
I thought I did it once.
But you have to take sensei with you. So when sensei, can you do it again, please? もう一回やってもらっていい？もう一回あなたがやってもらっていい？So when you say, because what Lawrence did, now he exactly did what you said. He tried to remove yourself, out of the strength, but he couldn't take Lawrence, he couldn't take sensei with you. How can you take Lawrence with you together when you just take yourself out of it? 抜いてるわけじゃん。抜いてるのにどうして彼も一緒にくっついてくるの？抜いて、抜いて、抜いて。But he comes with you, right? Yeah, he's stuck with you. How are you doing it? That's the question. So this is what you did, Lawrence. This is trying to copy what you did. Sensei says, what you did, you just took yourself away from everything. But what Sensei is saying is, gonna relax or out from the strength, but out with you. You know what I mean? Both of you out of the strength. That's what he's doing. He says he takes himself out of the force, but not by himself, but together.
I feel touched.
So yes, that's why together out of the force. See, like you're putting the whole force, but suddenly you lose that force as well, right? You lose your force too. He takes a whole lot of yourself and then sensei himself out of force. That's what he says, but don't know what's happening.
I understand in theory what you're saying, but it's so hard to.
抜いてるけど分かってるわけね。ローレンスが抜いて勝手に。
He got separated, yeah. He got separated. So no separation, of course.
だからこうがっちり持った。
So a lot of strength, a lot of force originally. So I'm feeling it. I can't really move because his strength is bigger. Physically, his strength is bigger. So of course I can't beat him by the strength. So I just take that force out of my intention or my mind. It's almost more like.
もう一つのポイントは関節なんだけども、これは持たれたらこの手首で勝負したんだよね、本当は。
So naturally, when you're held, Usually people try to do a technique using the wrist, using the joints, the wrist first.
これを外してこの肘の方に力を入れる。
But so see, you can see there's no. I'm not using the wrist side elbow, but that's more because of the body.
だからこの次の関節、持たれた次の関節はまあ使えるよね。
So because my wrist is totally locked from his physical strength, that my free joint closest from his strength, it's the elbow. That's why I can still freely use.
だからこの持たれてるところを攻めて投げるんではなくて、違うところを
So I use where it's free, and then
肘と肩を使って、ここを置いといて肘肩でこう外す。
because so now probably people might have been able to easier to see because my wrist is totally locked by his whole strength. There's no chance I can use my wrist or without adding, I think. But then using where it's free.
こっちの方もこの手に対してかけるんじゃなくて、胸ではなくて自分の背骨の方に持ってくる。
So what I'm doing is here again, my front side where the chest is almost locked by his physical strength. So I feel like I'm using my backside bone. That's what I feel I'm using. I'm using the backside.
最初にローレンスがやったのは、持たれてるところから離れていこうとした。離れるんじゃなくて、ここじゃなくて、ここの背骨を使っていくと。
So what Lawrence tried before was he was separating himself from the strength. But what I'm doing that's separate. This is separation. But what I'm doing is I'm still contacting and using.
この手はほっといて、背骨で持ってくる。
So I leave that strength. I'm not doing anything to that strength where Lawrence is putting a lot of force, but I'm using my backside to take the strength out of it.
そしたら、最初のはこの持ってるところと一緒に逃げようとすると、僕はここにいるから逃げれない。離れてっちゃう。そういったところが最初に彼が言ったのは。
So what Lawrence did,
逃げようとすると。
so when he was trying to do the technique, of course he was, but it was separating the strength.
だからどうなんだというと、相手が強いまま体だけは離れるね。じゃなくて、持たせたところはそのままにしておいて、で自分の中心に持ってくる。
Because the strength is still there, and then trying to separate, then strength just the force still stayed there. But you've got to keep that force as it is, not separating from there. But use your, again, it's a center thing, since it's center.
でさっきはゆっくりやったんだけど、
So I was doing it very slow, but now this time I'm going to add speed onto it.
この位置からちょっと外して中心を回したんです。
So now I added speed to it. It's the same thing, but I just added the speed.
ただ、この位置から自分の背骨にこう合わせて
So I'm feeling my spine.
これゆっくりやっても
This is the slow version. I move. So no separation from Lawrence's force, but I'm feeling using my spine. That's my center. I feel my center where my spine is, and this time I just rotated much faster. Then I can really throw.
これは結局ね、こう持たれた
This,
からこのしっかり持ってるのは維持してこの
so you got to keep that force as it is.
でこれを変えるとこれに勝負しようっていうところが無理だから
What people usually do is they are trying to change the force where it is, but leave the force as it is. And just to take it out.
持たれてるのは大切にしておいて
Don't change it, don't change it.
中心をこう抜く。
But how I'm feeling is really drawing out of that strength, leaving it but drawing out, taking yourself out of it, but with him.
持たせたままそのまま力を抜く。だからこの指をこう持っても。
So it's the same, using holding the finger.
でこの位置からこれもこの位置から持たせたところは大切にしとかないとちょっとスリップしちゃうから。
So
抜いてきて。
good to keep that force where it's held.
結局腕も指も一緒で。
So it's
この指で投げようと思わないで、指じゃなくてこの次の手首、肘肩をちょっと。
So leave that finger where it's held. Don't move the finger. You don't need to do anything about the finger. Just where the finger's totally locked. So it's more wrist and elbow and shoulder attached to my whole body.
今こうしっかり持ってるからこの指でこの手首に固まってきてるので、これはちょっと使えなくなって。
But now, because of his strength is so strong, now my wrist is now locked.
これを置いといて。
So I leave it. Now next free spot is the elbow and the shoulder.
これで肘肩を使うと投げる。持たせたところは持たせておいて、次の関節を使ってこう抜いて。
So still it's joints you're using. So still part of Aikido you're using. It's the joints I'm using. But leave the finger. If you fight with the finger, your finger's going to be broken. So fingers left there. And use a free spot. Use your elbow where it's free. And use your spine.
今のは結局どうなったかというと、持たれた指で投げようとするから指が痛い。指を使っちゃダメ。
Obvious if your finger was painful, that means you're using a finger to throw. So
だからこう持たれました。でこの指でこう投げようとするとこれは完全に痛い。
what you are doing, most of people are doing is you're trying to throw with your finger. From my eyes, leave it. Leave it. Do not feel it. Leave it.
違う体を使ってる。
Use the other joints where they are free.
でこれが今日やってる相手は全然同じポイント。
And
両手でこう持たれたのをここで投げるんじゃなくて。
what I'm showing today is hold the same principle. Aiki-waza I'm showing, held by finger or hands with two hands or even chest. Where because the chest there's no actual joint, but the free part is my back, my spine. Spine's not quite joints, but maybe. Lot of joints in spine. That's where I'm using. So where it's free, front is locked, but the back is free. So I use my back. So where it's all free, that's what I'm using. It's all the same principle I'm doing today. So do not fight against where the lot of force is. So what I'm feeling is where the force is happening, just leave it there to him, where he can put even more strength into, and I step out of that force. That's how I feel. And that, when I step out, yeah, it's stepping out, but still, it's interlocking together, but not separating. So there's a difference between what I'm saying is stepping out of the force, but not separating. See, I'm not sweating at all.
次回からは部分部分の基本技とか基本動作とか呼吸とかそれがどれも相手技につながっているということを少しずつ。
So from the next time, from the next time, I will show a bit more connection between Aiki-waza and other basic movements or basic technique, something. I try to show the connection between the techniques that you know of with Aiki-waza from the next classes.
本当に技そのまま構えで構え動き基本動作の全部が相手が前に進んでいくということをこれからやっていく。
I really want to explain everyone that even one kamae, one movement of kihon dosa, basic movement, each part of your training is connected with Aiki-waza. That's what people have to know. It's not something separated from what you're doing. It's together.
はい、では今日ははい、じゃあはい。All right. Whoa.
Whoa!
Okay, see you next time.